Hello and welcome to this Learn at Home lesson. This is a history lesson for children in lower key stage 2, so that's year 3 and year 4, aged 7 to 9. On screen now is a list of everything you will need to take part in this lesson. When you see the pause icon appear on screen, pause the video and take a moment to think about the question I've just asked you. If you're working with someone, you could talk to them about your ideas. Do you have everything you need? Let's get started. We're going to learn about a British history hero. By the end of this lesson, you'll know about Lord Shaftesbury and his role in the improvement of working conditions for poor children. We're going to be looking at some aspects of history during the Victorian era, and you might know a little bit about the Victorians already. Do you know what life was like for a typical Victorian child? Take a look at the image on the left. It shows the poor during the Victorian era. Unless they were from a rich family, children didn't go to school in Victorian times. They went to work instead. They needed the money to help their family buy food to eat. Common jobs for children were working down the coal mines, in factories, or even as chimney sweeps. Children worked long hours for little pay, often in dangerous conditions. Do you think the children would have preferred to go to school? Let's take a look at some of those jobs. Coal mining is the process of extracting coal from underground. During the Industrial Revolution, coal was very valuable as it was used to power steam engines. However, it wasn't easy to reach the coal. Men and women had to tunnel, dig and extract the coal by hand with nothing more than picks and shovels. Children were often hired to work in the mines due to their size, as that meant they were able to squeeze into small places that adults couldn't reach. They were also paid less than adults. Conditions in the mines were terrible. It was extremely dark, the air was thick with coal dust and that made it very difficult to breathe. There were rats everywhere and there was always the danger of a tunnel collapsing at any time. How do you think a child would have felt about working in a coal mine? In 1838 there was a terrible accident at Huscar Pit, a coal mine near Barnsley in South Yorkshire. There was a violent storm and heavy rain flowed into part of the pit. 26 children, 11 girls and 15 boys, most of them under the age of 12, drowned. This disaster shocked the public and it led to Queen Victoria ordering an investigation into working conditions in the mines, particularly for children. An MP named Lord Ashley was in charge of the investigation. In 1840, he sent 4 inspectors to visit coal mines and talk to mining communities across the country. This was done to collect evidence of what the working conditions in the mines were actually like. It was sometimes done against the wishes of the mine owners. Now, why do you think some mine owners did not want to be investigated? In 1842, the report was published. It included personal statements from miners as well as illustrations depicting the working conditions. It was revealed that children as young as 5 worked in the mines as trappers. The job of trappers was to open and close ventilation doors to let the air circulate around the mines. Slightly older children worked as hurriers, and their job was to pull carts of coal through the tunnels. They did this for 12 hours a day, with little time for a break. The evidence from the report was used by Lord Ashley to successfully pass the 1842 Mines and Collieries Act in Parliament. The 1842 Mines and Collieries Act stated that no female was to be employed underground at the mines, and no boy under the age of 10 was to be employed underground either. What do you think about this act? Unfortunately, working conditions for children in other types of employment were also in much need of change. During the Industrial Revolution, factories sprang up all over Britain and they produced a wide range of goods. Child workers were popular with factory owners as they were seen as cheap labour. Due to this, sometimes a factory employed more children than adults. The conditions in many factories were terrible. The working week was Monday to Saturday. Children worked 14 hours a day from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. They were beaten for falling asleep, for making a mistake or for being late. And some of the dirtiest and most dangerous jobs were often given to them, and they included cleaning under machines that were still running. Injuries and deaths were common. Do you think these children working in factories would rather work in a coal mine? From 1833, Lord Ashley worked hard to pass a new Factory Act to improve the working conditions of children in the factories, mainly to reduce the number of hours they worked. However, because children were cheaper to employ, especially girls, because they complained less, and because they had more energy than most of the adult workers, factory owners and even some members of Parliament were reluctant to agree to them working reduced hours. They thought that fewer goods would be produced, and that would lead to less money for both the owners of the factories and for the country itself. Do you think the number of hours children were made to work should be reduced? Why? In 1842, after failing to pass his proposed Factory Act in Parliament, Lord Ashley wrote this: "Though painfully disappointed, I am not disheartened. I shall persevere until my last hour." What does this statement tell us about Lord Ashley's character? He continued to campaign for new factory laws, and in 1847 the 10 Hours Act was finally passed. And this is what it stated: no child was to work more than 10 hours a day. How do you think the children working in factories felt about this new law? How do you think the factory owners felt about it? In 1851, Lord Ashley's father died. He took his father's title and from then on became known as Lord Shaftesbury. That same year, he put forward a bill in Parliament to try to stop the use of young boys as chimney sweeps. A chimney sweep was a worker who cleared ash and soot from chimneys. It was done by a master sweep who took on boys from poor families or orphans as apprentices and trained them to climb chimneys. What do you think the job of a child chimney sweep was like? The conditions for child chimney sweeps were absolutely terrible. Some apprentices were as young as 3 years old, and they were often underfed by their masters, and they did that so they would stay skinny and be able to squeeze through the narrowest chimneys. A chimney sweep's arms, elbows, legs and knees were often burnt and scraped raw. Breathing was difficult due to all the soot, and children could get stuck in the chimney or fall. A previous law from 1840 stated that no child under the age of 16 was to be used as a chimney sweep, but this law wasn't enforced and it was ignored by most master sweeps. Lord Shaftesbury actually discovered a chimney sweep was living behind his house in London. He rescued him and sent him to school, giving the boy a better chance in life. In 1875, a 12-year-old chimney sweep named George Brewster died in an accident while cleaning a chimney at Fulbourn Hospital in Cambridge under his master sweep's orders. news of the accident spread, and the public outrage about this helped Lord Shaftesbury to finally successfully pass the 1875 Chimney Sweeps Act. This act effectively stopped the use of young boys as chimney sweeps. And it said this: all chimney sweeps must have a licence and be registered by law. Why do you think it took so long for the law to be passed? Lord Shaftesbury and many other people believed that by educating poor children, they then had a chance of a better future where they could find a job, earn money for themselves, and so not have to commit crimes such as stealing. In 1844, he became president of the Ragged School Union. Ragged schools were charitable organisations run mostly by volunteers. They were set up to give a basic education to poor, orphaned or homeless children. Why do you think they were called ragged schools? At the ragged schools, children were taught how to read and write. Girls were taught domestic skills and boys were taught a trade such as shoemaking. Some ragged schools even supplied clothes for the children and allowed them to sleep there in very cold weather. Lord Shaftesbury remained the president of the Ragged Schools Union for 39 years, and he never stopped trying to improve the lives of poor children. Lord Shaftesbury died in 1885 at the age of 84. His funeral service was held at Westminster Abbey in London. As the coffin was transported there, the streets were lined with hundreds of poor people who'd waited there for hours in order to see the coffin and to pay their respects to the man they referred to as the poor man's Earl. Why do you think they called him this? Now it's your turn to further explore Lord Shaftesbury's role in the improvement of working conditions for poor children. So we've just learnt an awful lot, haven't we, about child labour during the Victorian era, as well as Lord Shaftesbury's work to pass acts which improved child labour laws and therefore made the lives of working poor Victorian children a little bit better. If you'd like to look back at the slides, then we've included them with the resources that come with this Learn at Home lesson, and you might find that helpful to look back through when you attempt today's task. On screen now is a worksheet that's also included with the resources, and your task is to pick two different people or groups of people during that era. One person or group of people who were happy about the new child labour laws, and one person or group of people who were unhappy about those laws. You can see at the top of the worksheet that there's a reminder of 3 of the acts that Lord Shaftesbury passed, and so you can look at those to help you. In the first box, that's where you choose someone who might have been happy about the passing of these laws, and there's space for you to explain why they would be happy. In the second box, that's where you're going to choose a person or group of people who might have been unhappy about these laws being passed. Who do you think that might have been? Circle your choice and then explain your answer. If you'd like to continue learning about this aspect of Victorian history after this lesson, you can. We've included some extra resources for this follow-on task. You can see one of them on screen now. Now, before I get into what the task is, I should let you know that this task is ideal if there's somebody else you can work with. So that might be someone else at home, or it could even be somebody else in your class. This task is ideal for doing over video chat online, for example. Now onto the task. You are going to come up with some questions to ask as an interviewer during that period in Victorian history when the child labour laws were about to be passed. You're going to be interviewing a Victorian person, one of the people on these talk show character cards on screen now. So you're going to have a look through them and choose which one you're going to interview. It might be a child working in a factory, or maybe a coal mine owner, or maybe even Lord Shaftesbury himself. So think about the questions you want to ask. What do they think about these new laws? Are they happy or unhappy about them? What will change in their life because of these new laws? That's the sort of thing you want to be asking. Now, once you've got your questions ready, it's time to work with a partner. And you're going to tell that partner which talk show character you want them to be. So then they'll have a look at the card and they'll have to have a think about what that person might think about these child labour laws and how they might answer your questions. Then you can do your interview, and then it's time to swap over because of course your partner hopefully will be thinking of some questions as well. And they'll have chosen a character, and so they'll tell you which character you're going to be. And exactly the same, you'll think about how they might respond to the questions they're about to be asked. What you're looking at on screen now are some pages from the evidence pack, which we've also included to help you with this follow-on task. So, to help you come up with some really good interview questions, here's some of the evidence gathered by the inspectors of the mines after the mining disaster we talked about earlier. Here are some pictures from their report showing the working conditions for children in mines. And here are some accounts by children working in mines and factories, as well as factory owners and coal mine owners. So they'll be helpful for you to think of interview questions, but also to get into role preparing to be interviewed. If you can't print out any of these resources or the worksheet for the main activity, that's absolutely fine. You can just work on plain paper, lined paper, in a notebook, or you can do your work on computer. Whichever method you choose, that's absolutely fine. Thanks for joining me for this Learn at Home lesson. You'll find some more information about this lesson, as well as others in the series, in the description below this video. And if you've not yet got your hands on all of those resources I was just showing you, or maybe you've just come across this video for the first time, stick around to find out how you can download the Learn at Home lesson packs, as well as accessing thousands of resources which are ideal for teaching and learning in school or at home from PlanBee.com. For more information, advice and resources for learning at home, search for PlanBee or visit PlanBee.com. The Home Education page is packed with information about how we can help you with teaching your children at home. As well as thousands of premium resources, including the Learn at Home lesson packs which accompany these videos, there are hundreds of free resources available to download as well. Don't forget to check the links and information in the description below this video for other ways in which PlanBee can help you with learning at home.